Today I'm going to rank 14 of Sung Jinwoo's weapons and items. From, I guess that's useful, to this should be illegal. Cause here's the thing, not all of these OP artifacts were made equal. Some were game changers, and others, well, let's just say they're the fantasy equivalent of getting socks for Christmas. Also, I'll be answering questions like, why is the Cup of Resurrection more broken than your Wi-Fi connection? Or why did the Orb of Avarice work so well for Tusk? Imagine an orc with absurd mana reserves, already slinging devastating spells. Now hand him an artifact that basically lets him go Kaioken X2. Yeah, good luck with that, right? But first, what's the first weapon that kicked off Jinwoo's legendary arsenal? Spoiler, it's about as powerful as a rusty kitchen knife. Sang-shik's sword. Oh yeah, I'm starting off strong, with a generic sword that had all the power of a butter knife. This beauty originally belonged to Sang-shik, a C-rank hunter who made one crucial mistake, thinking he could leave Jinwoo for dead and not face consequences. He was wrong. This was basically the first real weapon Jinwoo ever looted after his awakening, and even though it did not have any fancy buffs or magical effects, it had one special ability, being better than fists. Here's the thing, despite being as magical as your mom's old kitchen knife that can't cut anything, this sword actually mattered. Trapped in the Hapjeong subway station instance dungeon, Jinwoo faced giant wolves, monster cats, and rabid monkeys. And without this, he would have been bare knuckle brawling like an anime protagonist in training. With it, he cut through the wolves' thick fur, kept up with monster cats' speed, and fended off swarming rabid monkeys before they overwhelmed him. It wasn't flashy, but it got the job done. It was reliable, there for him in tough times, like a good friend that you keep even though you've gotten so ahead in life. So did he keep it? Nah. The second he found anything remotely better, this thing went straight to the Shadow Realm. Or more accurately, he yeeted it through the head of a blue golem during the dungeon break in chapter 17. But it played a crucial role in his early glow up, and for that you have to respect it, kinda. You ever pick up a weapon in a game, think it's gonna be OP, and then realize it's just there? Yeah, that's this dagger. And number 13 is Casca's Venom Fang. And yes, the famous Casca's Venom Fang, aka the discount dagger you get in every RPG before the game actually gets good. Jinwoo got this little reptilian tooth after slapping around Casca in a D-rank dungeon. At the time, it was his first real special weapon. But let's be honest, this thing got outclassed faster than a budget phone with a bad battery. Now, was it completely useless? Not at first. Against weaker dungeon mobs, the poison effect added a nice little bonus, softening up enemies before Jinwoo went in for the kill. And early on, when his strength wasn't at overpowered levels yet, having a dagger that dealt extra damage was actually useful. It allowed him to take down tougher enemies slightly faster. And in his grind-heavy early days, every advantage counted. And sure, this dagger is as effectively toxic and poisonous as your Rex's DMs, but let's be real, was Jinwoo ever the type to sit back and wait for poison to kick in? My man was out here slashing, summoning, and one-shotting monsters by the dozen. And the grand ranking of Jinwoo's arsenal? This Venom Fang was the equivalent of a tutorial weapon. Nice when you have nothing, but completely forgettable the second you get something better. He still used it occasionally. I mean, Casca's Venom Fang had potential, but in the world of Sung Jinwoo, potential don't cut it. Sure, it was a C-tier weapon at best, but at least it wasn't completely useless like some other items he had. But trust me, with this next weapon, this is when things finally start getting interesting. Taking the 12th spot is Nightkiller. You ever get a weapon in a game that seems super effective at first, only to realize it's kinda mid during the late game? Let's be real, Jinwoo bought this from the system shop during his job change dungeon run, and for about 5 minutes, it felt like an upgrade. He went from using basic weapons to a dagger with an actual specialty. It was supposed to tear through armored enemies, making it perfect for the heavily plated magic knights he was up against. The high armor penetration made slicing through those enemies a little easier, and Jinwoo, still in his I'm barely surviving phase, appreciated the boost. But here's the problem, Nightkiller was way too niche. Once he was done with the armored enemies, this thing had almost zero value. No bonus stats, no magical effects, not even cool visual effects, just a glorified can opener that got outclassed almost immediately. To put it in perspective, using Nightkiller outside of armored fights was like bringing a lockpick to a fistfight. Technically a tool, but it's the wrong one for the job, bro. Meanwhile, Jinwoo was leveling up at light speed, so weapons like this became nothing more than stepping stones, literally rocks. So where is it now? Did he give it to his mother as a glorified kitchen knife? Or did he keep it around, just in case? Kinda. he used it from time to time, but mostly just because it's available. For about 30 seconds, this sword had main character energy. Then, Jinwoo got something better and treated it like a friend you only remember when you don't have anyone else to talk to. Like, if this weapon was a person, it'd be that dude from high school who won Most Likely to Succeed, but is now working at a gas station, still talking about how he could have gone pro. At least it looked cool, you know? But if we're ranking weapons based on how deadly they should be, this one gets a solid F. At number 11, there is Baruka's dagger. Some weapons turn a hunter into a legend, while others, they're just a phase. Like that edgy haircut you regret in old yearbook photos. At first glance, this thing had some serious assassin vibes. Jinwoo looted it from Baruka, a high-ranking frost elf, which sounds like a flex, until you realize he also outgrew this one faster than a free trial subscription. After a high-speed, high-stakes battle, Jinwoo took down Baruka and claimed his dagger as a trophy. Though that wasn't the only thing he was looking to gain from this fight. Buddy tried extracting Baruka's shadow, and when it failed, you could practically hear his internal scream. Dude just soloed a high-speed assassin, looted his gear, and then the system hit him with a "nah, try again later." If frustration had a face, it was Jinwoo in that moment, like spending hours farming a rare drop only for RNG to slap you in the face. Given how fast and brutal Baruka was, you'd expect his weapon to be top tier, right? And at the time it kinda was. This dagger was razor sharp, lightweight, and built for speed, making it perfect for Jinwoo's assassin-style combat. He even dual-wielded it for a while, turning his fights into a high-speed slaughterhouse special. But while it worked early on, the dagger had one major problem. It didn't scale well. Jinwoo made good use of Baruka's dagger in the Kargalgan Gate dungeon, where its speed helped him land precise strikes against Kargalgan and his horde. He also wielded it in Demon Castle, where it worked fine against lower floor demons. But as he started facing stronger enemies, the dagger's limitations became painfully clear. No special abilities, no damage buffs, and nothing that made it stand out long term, except for its plus 10 agility. By the time he hit the Jeju Island raid, it had been completely outclassed by the Demon King's daggers, which offered higher attack power, buffs, and actual special effects. At that point, keeping Baruka's dagger would have been like wearing sunglasses indoors at night. Not useless, just completely unnecessary. Like, what are you hiding, bro? Baruka's dagger earns the 11th spot because while it was a solid mid-game weapon, it didn't have the lasting power to stay relevant. It gave Jinwoo his first real taste of assassin-style combat, boosting his speed and efficiency in fights. But it did lack any special effects or bonuses to make it viable in the long run. Coming in at number 10, I'm taking a break from weapons and shining the spotlight on items instead. Key to the Cartnon Tempo. Some items are game changers and others, they're just there to trigger the next cutscene. And that's exactly what the key to the Cartnon Temple was. Jinwoo scored this key from a cursed loot box while grinding in the Demon Castle, because nothing says congratulations like a cryptic item that doesn't have any description. At first it seemed like just another random drop, until that moment in chapter 111 when he met all the right conditions and the actual purpose of the key was revealed, leading him back to the Cartnon Temple where his entire life flipped upside down. So was it an important item? Absolutely. Was it actually useful beyond that? Not even a little. Once Jinwoo used the key to enter the temple, that was it. Mission complete. It had no hidden buffs, no resale value, and definitely no second use. It was basically the dungeon equivalent of those one-time pins you used to confirm your Amazon purchases. But let's give credit where it's due. Without this key, Jinwoo would have never faced the trials, unlocked more of his Monarch abilities, or started his overpowered grind set journey. It was a crucial plot item, just not a practical one. And number 9 is what's red, shiny, and sturdy AF that most tanks will have wet dreams thinking about: the Red Knight's helmet. It was intimidating, sturdy, and built for tanking hits. But there was one tiny problem. Jinwoo doesn't get hit, at least till later in the story. He looted this helmet from the corpse of the Red Knight Igris, arguably the coolest character during this time. This dude wasn't just armored, he was a wall of steel, shrugging off attacks like he was paid to ignore damage. At this point, Jinwoo was still in his I have to actually strategize phase, meaning every bit of extra defense counted. When he wrecked Igris, his armor was the best thing up for grabs, and since he wasn't able to haul around an entire medieval suit, he settled for the helmet as it was the only piece rewarded to him. It looked sick, it had great durability, and for a moment, it seemed like it might actually be solid. So was it a game changer or just fancy decoration? But honestly, it was one of those loot drops that look cool but never actually gets used.
I mean, it's alright, like...
If this were an RPG, it'd be that helmet you pick up, think about equipping, and then sell for some extra potions. That's why it lands at number 9. But on paper, this thing was a tank's dream. It had high durability. It was Sung Jinwoo's first S-rank equipment, and unlike a lot of early game loot, it wasn't complete garbage. If any other hunter had picked this up, they'd probably keep it forever. Jinwoo though had the reaction time of a caffeine-powered ninja. Armor only matters if you actually get hit, and Jinwoo, he dodged almost everything, even side chicks. This helmet was like buying an expensive security system when you live in a crime-free neighborhood. Good investment, just not suited for him. By the time Jinwoo unlocked most of his Monarch abilities, the Red Knight's helmet had all the relevance of a Nokia 3310 in 2025. It wasn't bad, but when you're engaging in legendary tier battles, a basic helmet is about as useful as a raincoat in a tsunami. The Red Knight's helmet had solid defense, durability, and a pretty slick design. But let's be real, by the end of the series, Jinwoo doesn't need it no more. The guy was already dodging attacks like he had Ultra Instinct, so extra armor was basically just an accessory. Moving forward, we got Demon Monarch set. With a name like that, you'd expect something insane. Maybe the ability to summon an army of demons, shoot hellfire lasers, or at least unlock some kind of god tier ability, right? No. Instead, it gives some nice stat boosts. That's it. Jinwoo didn't get this set all at once. He had to grind for it, piece by piece. First, he looted the Demon Monarch's earrings from Vulcan on the 50th floor of the Demon Castle. It was a solid start, boosting his strength and vitality. Then came the Demon Monarch's necklace, dropped from the next demon boss, Matus. It stacked more stat increases on his agility and intelligence. Nothing crazy, but a decent addition, so far, so good. And finally, he got the Demon Monarch's ring from the Demon King Baran, which gave him some extra perception and more intelligence. Not exactly a mind-blowing finale, but hey, a full set is a full set. With it, you'd think some hidden bonus would kick in. Maybe an ultimate ability that lets Jinwoo go full Demon King mode. That never happened. So after all that effort, what did the Demon Monarch set actually do? It raised his stats, but that's it. No flashy abilities, no reality-breaking powers, just higher numbers across the board. Is that useful? Sure. Is it game-changing? Not really. It's like grinding for a legendary armor set in an RPG, only to realize the set bonus is just plus 10 all stats. Helpful, but nothing that makes you feel like a god. Yeah, the additional stats were helpful. He could summon more shadows due to the intelligence boost, more speed from the additional agility, and take down waves of enemies more efficiently. During the Jeju Island arc, it gave him an edge against the Ant King. It wasn't flashy, but it was practical. And then there is the Orb of Avarice, an artifact so ridiculous that it basically lets mages tell the laws of magic to sit down and shut up. This A-rank item doesn't just boost spells, it doubles the magic damage of the caster. That's not a buff, that's a war crime waiting to happen. So where did this absolute game-breaking artifact come from? Was it some legendary loot drop from an ancient dragon? Nope, just some fat dude sitting on a hot chair. Jinwoo actually got the Orb of Avarice while grinding his way through the Demon Castle. A hellish tower packed with high-level demons, oceans of fire, and bosses who really thought they had a chance. After reaching the 50th floor, Jinwoo encountered Vulcan, a large demon the size of a small building that moves like a rabbit during mating season. He's got the body of a medieval fortress, the temper of a gym bro who skipped leg day, and the fashion sense of a fantasy villain who took fire-themed really seriously. But here's the kicker. Jinwoo himself didn't really need a magnifying glass ball for his powers, so what does he do with it? He does what any RPG player in their right mind would do. Hand it off to the most overpowered magic user in his party. Tusk isn't just some random orc in Jinwoo's army. This guy's a former high orc shaman, which means he's got insane magic power, a big mana pool, and a spell list that basically screams, I am the final boss now. Cause he was a final boss in his dungeon before Jinwoo added him to his shadow collection. Unlike a lot of his shadow summon brethren, Tusk isn't about brute force. He's all about raining down destruction from a distance, with his hymns and chants. So now we take Tusk, already a powerhouse of magical devastation, and we give him an artifact that doubles the power of his best spells. What do we get? Absolute carnage. The Orb of Avarice turns Tusk from a strong spellcaster into a walking natural disaster. His fire attacks, which were already terrifying, now have the power to vaporize entire squads of enemies in seconds. And since Tusk has ridiculous mana reserves, he can keep spamming these spells with no problem at all. At this point, giving the Orb to Tusk is basically giving a Dragon 3 more heads. So, 1 S tier dagger, that's basic. 2 S tier daggers, child's play. 2 overpowered daggers that make you deadlier and turn every fight into a speedrun. Now we're talking. Jinwoo got his hands on the Demon King's daggers after wiping the floor with Baran, the guy that had an army, a castle, and enough lightning magic to power a city. Yeah, that guy? but as usual, our dude Jinwoo messed him up quicker than a baby grabbing random things and putting it in their mouth. A few clean dodges, some well-placed slashes, a little bit of distraction from Esso, Radru, and boom, Baran became nothing more than a really good loot drop. The daggers fit Jinwoo's combat style perfectly. Quick, precise, powerful. It also has a second effect called 2 as 1, which grants a bonus attack power to each dagger based on the user's strength stat. This means this dagger scales as Jinwoo gets stronger. This weapon didn't only let him hit harder, but he was also hitting faster than most enemies could even react. How powerful are these daggers, you ask? It became terrifyingly clear when he soloed the Jeju Island raid, while Japan and Korea's strongest hunters were struggling against an endless wave of man-eating ants. Jinwoo jumped in like your big bro taking the controller to save you from the boss battle, and started cutting through them like a razor through paper. As Jinwoo worked his way through the ants, this dagger's strength became obvious. Even Beru, the Ant King at that time, was pissing his pants trying to process what was happening, before Jinwoo turned him into his latest Shadow Soldier. But like everything in life, even these swords have their limits. When Jinwoo went up against the statue of God, he quickly learned that hitting something the size of a building with a sword wasn't exactly the best tactic. No matter how much power he packed into it, the statue didn't even flinch. And then there's Thomas Andre, the guy's a literal tank. Jinwoo laid down hit after hit, but Andre's Goliath ability made him nearly invulnerable. It was like trying to break through a prison wall with a spoon, until Jinwoo decided to use his fists, turning Thomas into a personal punching bag and leaving him like a bag of potatoes lying on the edge of a supermarket. These swords are game changers against the right enemies. Jinwoo went from being a danger to a threat. Against the wrong ones, well, he just grabbed something stronger. Because then there's its more chaotic big brother, the Demon King's longsword. This is another loot Jinwoo got after defeating the dude with horns for a face, Baran. The sword is big, like, I need you to hold me with both of your hands kind of big. And it's actually heavy as in carry it around too long and your arms fall off, kind of heavy. But that actually makes sense because this bad boy brings a 350 attack power boost. You might think, okay, that's cool, but for Jinwoo, who's already operating at god-like levels of strength, this sword just pumps up his already ridiculous damage to a level that says, yeah, I'll be the one to break your face, thanks. Now, here's the thing. This sword is absolutely destructive. It's perfect when Jinwoo's up against hordes of enemies or crazy strong bosses, but it doesn't exactly fit his usual fighting style. Jinwoo is more of a speedster. He likes to zip in, make a few quick cuts, and leave the enemies wondering what just happened. The longsword, on the other hand, is more of a anga-bunga, big hurt kind of weapon. Sure, it's powerful, but it's not exactly the precision tool that Jinwoo typically uses. So what did he do with it? He gave it to the guy who fights well with the sword, obviously, Blood Red Commander Igris. During Chahe-in's test for Ajin Guild, Jinwoo handed over this monstrous weapon to his most loyal knight, and honestly, it was a most perfect match. Igris' skills, while using a broadsword, are already like a surgeon using a scalpel. Now, he had a sword that matched his strength and skill. Instead of gathering dust in Jinwoo's inventory, the Demon King's longsword was put to great use by Igris himself, turning him into an unstoppable force on the battlefield. When he's got the space to swing, the 350 attack boost makes those swings devastating. Every cut shattered enemy lines, and with Igris' strength, he sent enemies flying with each force of each blow. And then there's a storm of white flame. Igris absolutely turned the battlefield into a firestorm with the sword. The flames that erupt with each swing burned entire waves of enemies, while the attack boost would ensure the bigger threats were taken down in seconds. Talk about adding fuel to the fire. The combination of raw power and flame AoE let Igris fight on the battlefield like an unstoppable force of nature. The firestorm would take care of mobs, while the sword's sheer force would obliterate even the toughest bosses. It's the ultimate weapon for a large-scale fight that can dominate the area and leave no survivors. But what if we take things up a notch? What if we give Jinwoo something so legendary, so overpowered, that even dragons would be sweating? Enter Kamish's Wrath, a weapon literally made from the fang of the strongest dragon to ever set foot on Earth. Yeah, this one's different. So a quick little backstory, because Kamish, the biggest, baddest dragon to ever exist, was responsible for nearly wiping out humanity. It took every elite hunter on the planet, plus magic, sacrifice, and pure luck just to take him down. And after that battle, one of its teeth was made into a pair of daggers. When Kamish bit Thomas Andre, the strongest hunter in America, he managed to pull out its longest and sharpest fang. And instead of just selling it, he had it reforged into a pair of daggers, a weapon worthy of its monstrous origins. Then, after seeing Jinwoo's strength firsthand, Thomas did something no one expected. He handed it over as a gift for sparing his and his guildmates' lives. Imagine receiving a pair of teeth as a gift. Anyway, this thing is bonkers. First off, it has an incredible attack power of 1500, which, just for reference, is nearly 5 times what the Demon King's longsword had. That's right, we went from 350 attack power to 1500 in one jump. No gimmicks, no tricks, just pure terrifying sharpness that slices through anything like a hot knife through butter. Basically, this thing is pure steroids. So how did Jinwoo abuse it? Well, unlike the Demon King's longsword, which was all about raw power and wide swings, Kamish's wrath fits perfectly into his fighting style. Jinwoo lives for speed, precision, and quick devastating strikes. And this dagger, it's built for that exact thing. With how light it feels in his hand and the sheer firepower behind each attack, Jinwoo could zip through a battlefield, cutting through enemies like they were made of paper. Now we all know that Jinwoo's an overly buffed necromancer, but he still cannot bring back something or someone that died to what they originally were. But what if I told you that he had something that could literally cheat death itself, on demand? The Elixir of Life. The ultimate healing item, so rare, so absurdly broken that even legends would call it a myth. Jinwoo's entire journey has been about pushing past limits, breaking barriers, and getting stronger. But strength means nothing if you can't stay alive, right? And that's where this little miracle comes in. The Elixir of Life isn't some ancient relic or a one-time reward. It's something Jinwoo crafted himself. After he destroyed Metis, the system rewarded Jinwoo with the recipe for the Elixir of Life. He then found out that he had already had 2 of the 3 materials needed to make this elixir: World's Tree Fragment from Vulcan and Spring Water of the Echoing Forest from Metis. He then got the last ingredient, the purified blood of the Demon King, after defeating Baran later on. And once combined those 3 together, boom, he had the ultimate get out of death, free card. But what exactly is this Elixir of Life? It's the ultimate healing potion, an item so powerful that it defies logic. Unlike ordinary healing potions that restore only a fraction of health or take time to work, this one instantly heals all wounds, no matter how severe. But it doesn't stop there. It also removes all status effects, meaning poison, paralysis, curses, and even incurable conditions like eternal slumber are wiped away in an instant. What makes this potion even more ridiculous is that Jinwoo crafted it himself. The ingredients come from bosses in the demon castle, and they don't respawn, meaning once they're gone, they're gone. If I were Jinwoo, I'd chuck this down for any slight inconvenience. But despite how powerful it was, he never actually used it in battle. Instead, he did something even more meaningful. He used it to save and help people who mattered most to him. His mother had been trapped in eternal slumber for years, with no doctor or healer able to wake her. Jinwoo didn't just wake her up, he completely cured her, as if the illness never existed. Instead of keeping the remaining elixir for himself, Jinwoo made an even bigger move. He used it on Yoo Jin-ho's father, the CEO of Yujin Construction. That's not all. After the time reversal, Jinwoo also used the Elixir of Life to heal Go Gung-hee, the former chairman of the Hunter Association. Honestly, that's the sign of a veteran Dark Souls player, knowing which item to use and when to use them. Now, you might be thinking, how can something top this off? Jinwoo can already cure any diseases and heal any injury, and with his necromancy, he can even resurrect anyone that died to be a part of his army. But what if I tell you that at one point Jinwoo even reverted time itself? The ultimate undo button, the Cup of Reincarnation. An artifact so ridiculously powerful it straight up reverses time like you're pressing Ctrl Z on the entire universe. Jinwoo didn't just revive a single person, he hit rewind on existence, bringing not only one person back, but resetting the world to before the people he cared about all died. It's like the universe just went, yeah, let's pretend that whole thing never happened. So what made Jinwoo decide to go full-time lord and rewrite the whole story? After slaying Antares and defeating the Monarchs, Jinwoo was standing in the wreckage, thinking, well, that was fun, but I lost a bunch of people and that was not fun. The cost of winning weighed on him more than a sack of bricks. So Jinwoo thought, what if I could just hit the rewind button on life? Maybe give everyone a second shot. Cue the Cup of Reincarnation, the most overpowered artifact in existence. Jinwoo asked the rulers to use it one last time. The rulers were like, sure, but FYI, you'll be erased from everyone's memory. And even if you mess up, we're all doomed. To which Jinwoo was all like, cool, but I'm doing it anyway. And so against all warnings, the rulers activated the cup, and just like that, poof, the timeline rewound, and everyone, including Jinwoo, was sent back in time, ready to speedrun the Monarchs this time around. But wait, are you ready for the cherry on top of Jinwoo's already godlike power? Yeah, rewriting time was cute and all, but this item is what made Jinwoo the protagonist in a story full of OP beings. I present to you Ashbourne's Black Heart. This isn't just any item in his collection. This one's the final boss item, the Big Kahuna, the game changer that makes all the other loot look like it came out of a gacha game. So Black Heart comes and then bam, he's suddenly got 100,000 mana. Yeah, you heard that right. Jinwoo went from I might need a nap to I can take over the universe in the blink of an eye. Not only does this bad boy turn his mana into something that would make even a wizard jealous, but it also cements his title as the Shadow of the Monarchs. He's no longer just a hunter, folks, now he's a walking Monarch level disaster. With the Black Heart, Jinwoo doesn't just get a taste of Ashbourne's power, he can now use the full potential of all of Ashbourne's Monarch skills. It's like getting everything you've ever wanted, and having an infinite supply of pizza at the same time. That also doesn't make you fat. And I know what you're thinking, there's no such thing as too much pizza. Every move, every ability, a maximum strength. Jinwoo now owns a Monarch's power. Now, Blackheart doesn't just crank Jinwoo's power up, it elevates him to the level of the universe's boss fight. Jinwoo is officially in a league of his own. His competition pretty much non-existent, in this universe at least. But even without these game-breaking items, Jinwoo's underrated abilities are enough for him to be called the strongest hunter.